least that I was doing with you, Lisa was, because you can't see it because I got the camera up.
Yeah.
But she's like 10 feet behind me, and she's working. And the shop was going, oh, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. So that's what I'm thinking is,
yeah.
You know, if I was able to share that link through Lisa, let's say it was YouTube, then that hopefully brings more traffic to you, because that is the end goal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're good. So
yeah,
anyway,
for sure.
I'll let you go. I got to go make a sandwich and all that stuff. And we'll just, I'm not here. I'm just the fly on the wall.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Okay,
appreciate it.
Yeah, bye.
All right, guys, welcome. So today we got recovery as a topic. So I think this is going to be great for everyone, whether you're like an elite level athlete or work out every day, like 4 or 5 times a week. I think this is an important topic to look at and see what kind of things you can do for your own recovery. And then if you wanted to, you can also go live with us today. And then ask questions in a live format, or you can even like talk about your stories of recovery too. So if coaches out there, trainers out there, whoever wants to add a few things, you can today. So we'll have Rob going live. So just request to go live with us, and then we can also answer some questions. So make sure you do that. Yeah, and we'll get started in a few minutes. So we got quite a few things to talk about. I did a lot more research than I thought I would do for this, just because there's so much stuff out there. So we're going to be talking about a number of topics. Yeah, and if there's any things you want to add to it, let us know your own experiences. So this is just research. Yeah, so live with Rob here. So yeah, this is research. So like we discussed, like we're trying to bring research to practice, and sometimes it works pretty easily, sometimes it doesn't. So we want to work on strategies to improve that, to try to bring research. Oh, there's Rob. There's Rob. So Rob's in.
Hey everybody.
Rob's in today as well. Yeah, and then if people wanted to request to go live, let us know. Uh-oh. I know Farmstrong Athletics would like to go live at one point, so we'll do that. There's probably some other clubs on. I know CrossFit Edmonton shared this, so if there's any coaches from CrossFit Edmonton, let us know. So yeah, coaches, elite level athletes, any type of athletes, weekend warriors. We want to hear stories today too and see. Nice haircut, Rob. Is that?
Oh, hey, thanks. Samantha did it?
Nice. I was just like, wow. That looks different. So people on Zoom, hopefully you can hear Rob. You don't necessarily have to see us because I have my computer and the slides, so we can talk about things as we go. So again, go live with us, ask us questions as we go about recovery. I am not a physiologist by any means, so I can answer questions about that. I'll try my best, but our idea is just to go over like basic physiology, like very basic physiology, and just kind of start with what happens when you're working out quite a bit, like delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS. We're going to be talking about creatine kinase, and some like blood lactate threshold. So those are topics that aren't too difficult explained the way we're going to explain it. So the idea is to understand those things as markers for activity, and then those are like kind of like a prerequisite for some of the articles we're going to be looking at. So those articles will come up with those terms, and then what happens to those markers. So yeah, hopefully don't confuse things more. So yeah, we can kind of get started in another minute, and let us know if you want to go live. Don't be shy. Farmstrong's on here, so whether it's Dan or Danny or Evan, we can see your beautiful faces if we want. Yeah, so we can get into it in a minute. Any good jokes for today, Rob?
I don't have any new ones for you today.
No, okay. Well, that's fine. That's fine. What about You're baking bread yesterday. How did that go?
Oh, it came out so good.
Yeah.
The loaf's already half gone.
Really? Half gone? Wow.
Half gone. Yeah, I know. We eat too much bread.
I'm pretty jealous. Darn. I like bread
Yeah,
too.
loaf of bread and then a dozen buns came out of it too.
A dozen buns too.
Double batch. Yeah.
I would like, I'm glad I don't have the stuff in my pantry for baking because I'd probably balloon up. Nothing wrong with being heavy, but I would be not healthy at that point. So yeah. My wonderful neighbor actually gives me like a loaf every week or two. It's amazing. And he's so kind because I'm like, I'm sorry I don't give stuff to you. But he's like, it's not a prerequisite. He's like, I don't need you to give me stuff. I'm just giving it to you out of kindness. So yeah, one day I'll give something back. Okay, so let's go recovery. We're gonna kind of flip back and forth between slides. Like I'll pull up the slides on Zoom, and then also talk to Instagram, and then Rob can add some stuff too. So we've heard the term recovery, like I guess the mid 90s, late 90s, it became more popular as a term. I think people have been doing it for longer than that anyways, automatically. So recovery, what is it? So coaches and athletes are always seeking anything that they can do to give advantage to training and performance. So that's like a big umbrella term. So optical recovery may provide benefits during repetitive high-level training and competition. So the idea is to perform better. So it's any activity that's goal is to have positive effects on fatigue, muscle injury, and overall performance. So again, more important things like nutrition and psychological stress should also be considered as well. These are out of our scope. Like we're not registered dietitians or psychologists, so we can comment a little bit on it. But again, that's going to be for those professionals, which hopefully we link up with next week at one point. And recovery can take place in individual or team sports. So whether you're an Olympic lifter or like a high-level soccer player, track and field, whatever it might be, these are the research is shown for all athletes. So there's there's a mix of studies we're going to look at today. And anything to say about that, Rob? You're good, Rob?
No, that sounds perfect.
Okay, so types of recovery.
Absolutely.
Types of recovery. I'm going to grab the phone here. We're going to like flip back and forth between different views. So we got types of recovery. Active recovery. Makes sense. Stay active. Hydrotherapy, contrast baths and cold water immersion, compression clothing or technology, and rolling self-release. There are more types of recovery, but I chose these things because it shows the most research and the strongest research on. So we're going to be going through those things. We're going to go through a couple terms first. So going through delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS. So everyone's worked out pretty heavy in the past, I'm sure, and you've had pain for like 2 to 3 days after activity, and you're like, sometimes you just want to die from all the pain. Like heavy squats, for instance, 2 days after, you almost fall down the stairs because your legs give out because they're so sore. So delayed onset muscle soreness is temporary muscle damage or inflammation. This is at the cellular level, so it's like micro tears that happen. And it's not bad. We tell patients that this is normal, and then this is what's required to increase strength because you're challenging the body, and then your body adapts and changes to that challenge or matches the challenge. So usually the pain peaks at 48 hours after activity, but can persist for 3 days or even longer. And then one thing to mention, creatine kinase CK is an inflammatory marker, so enzyme. It indicates muscle damage. So this gets released in the blood when there is muscle damage. So this is shown to increase in DOMS. So just think of it as an enzyme that increases during muscle damage or when muscle damage happens, and lactate is a byproduct of glucose utilization. So what that is, everyone's kind of worked out heavy, and at one part of the workout, let's say you're putting a large demand on your muscles, or you're sprinting, or you're squatting heavy, and you get that burn in the joints and muscles. So that could be considered as the lactic acid buildup. So that's essentially an acidic environment. So you're breaking down lots of glucose, not getting enough oxygen to the muscles. Therefore, you have pain, and that's a protection mechanism. So you don't, rupture something or do some serious damage. So that's those terms. So lactate, creatine kinase. I go over those terms because they're important, and also that these terms are also commented on the research. So lots of the studies we go through are measuring those things. Yeah, anything to add about that, Rob?
Not too much. Like I think for any like physio students that are watching, anything like that, like people who train regularly are going to be like used to that kind of DOMS feeling and that like post-workout feeling.
Yeah.
But when you get people who are like don't have that same kind of workout background, maybe working out for the first time with your rehab exercises, you might have to educate them a little bit about like what is the DOMS versus what is like worsening of their symptoms and like what the two different things can mean.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. That's why I explain DOMS to most patients. They're like, hey, you're going to be sore after this. Expect this and this, but don't expect, unrelenting pain that you can't manage or you can't function. So yes, like your range of motion, like you might be stiff, but you're still functional. You can still go to work. You can still do everything you need to do. You might just not be able to do another workout the day after because you're so stiff and sore. So going into that first point, we have active recovery. So I'm going to put the camera onto the slide just for a brief moment. That way you can see what the study is. So active recovery and research. So you have a systematic review on the effectiveness of active recovery interventions on athletic performance of professional, college, and competitive level athletes. So this looks at athletes of different types. So elite level athletes, you could say. So submaximal activities such as running, jogging, cycling, swimming, or active stretching. So that would be considered active recovery. So adding, like after a heavy training session or workout, you could add in a bike for 6 to 10 minutes, for example. At the end, like 60% of your maximal performance. So obviously not like heavy. And that's what active recovery could be considered as. So doing exercise after your volume loads or your training. So the intention of this is for post-exertion physiological recovery. So I mentioned that CK, the creatine kinase, and blood lactate levels. So what it does, active recovery, increases rates of intramuscular blood flow, enhancing blood lactate removal to tolerate higher training loads, musculoskeletal recovery, and return to physiological homeostasis, so a balance of your body, of your physiology. So increases in performance were seen, sports-specific measures such as faster swim times, gymnastic scores, and CMJ. So that's just like a jump test, a vertical jump test. So those were the outcome measures that they used, and they found that 6 to 10 minutes was the best in that study. So it did show a better recovery. So less pain, faster swim times, gymnastic scores, sprinting times, things like that. So it did show an improvement using that kind of system. So active recovery, by the looks of it, very good, and it has been done for a long period of time. Like a cool down everyone's done at the end of a workout, that would be considered active recovery, and that's worked into programs for quite some time. Anything to add with that, Rob?
Just that, yeah, like it makes total sense. Like if we're thinking about like or like muscle like lactate levels, for example, as kind of being a measure of those like metabolic byproducts.
Yeah.
And if we're kind of thinking about like our recovery as sort of like flushing the muscle out that way as being like kind of our mechanism of achieving a better recovery.
Yeah.
Like I think if you compare like that 6 minutes of light exercise to like even like contrast baths or heat packs,
Yeah.
where we're kind of thinking that we're kind of having an effect on blood flow with those.
Yeah.
I think that like light exercise is going to give us like probably a much better blood flow result compared to any of those like passive thermal modalities. So it just makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a good point is with active recovery, is that you do have more oxygenated tissue going to the muscle. So again, like you said, you're kind of flushing the body out. So if you have more blood going to the muscle, then you're absorbing or recycling or restoring that blood lactate level. So instead of just going cold and just resting, then you'll likely get a bit more burn, you get more pain, right? So yeah, that's good about active recovery. It's a big topic, so we're trying to cover it quick. The 6 to 10 minutes is best comment at the bottom is what that research study found. So they looked at a lot of different, and this is the weakness with most studies, is a lot of things that people are doing is variant, right? So some studies in this showed 6 minutes, some 12 minutes, some 15. So this recommendation is based on the synthesis of all that research. So now you have cold water therapy. You don't have to dunk your head for too long underneath like that guy's doing. So everyone's seen tubs and like hydrotherapy and things like that, ice water baths. Yeah, so this is, if you can see it, always best to keep moving. Nasty DOMs can be avoided. That's true, yeah. So you, exactly, you would do a bike or something like that afterwards, or continue doing a light activity, air squats, things like that, or whatever. Try to gear it towards the activity that's going on. So whether if you're like in soccer, like continue running, or Olympic lifting, do some air squats, some rows, things like that. So the next one's interesting. It's cold water immersion and contrast baths. So cold water immersion just being cold water, and contrast baths being both cold and hot or warm. So this study at the top, the effects of cold water immersion and cold water therapy on performance, recovery following high intensity exercise, systematic review. So meaning this is looking at multiple studies, quite a few studies, 11. So the idea is vasoconstriction of blood vessels. So constricting your blood vessels, so making them smaller, which would reduce blood flow. So hydrostatic pressure increases as well, reduction in blood flow due to all that. So the result would be decreased edema, so swelling, and inflammation. So everyone knows, ice pack for inflammation to manage. So this is working on the same concept, is reducing blood flow to an area, so reducing tissue damage. So to help with DOMS, this is often used for that. So cold water immersion versus contrast water therapy. So contrast, the thought is between hot and cold is vasopumping. So you're constricting your vessels, then you're dilating your vessels, so opening them up, and you're doing that frequently, right? You're changing that quite a bit. So what the thought of this is increased clearance of metabolic byproducts accumulated during exercise. So that blood pumping is kind of like what Rob said, is recycling those things. Yeah, so that's the difference between cold water immersion versus contrast water. So cold water immersion for some might be more or less comfortable because you're being dunked in ice water for quite a long time, versus contrast water, you kind of get a shock, right? You go into cold for a certain amount of time, then you go into hot, and then vice versa. So same thing, you had the jump test, repeated sprints as outcome measures, and pain scales, visual analog scales. So you had 11 studies in this one, 229 participants, so quite a large study. Water temperature ranged between 9.2 to 12 degrees Celsius for the cold water, and that was 14 to 18 minutes within 1 hour post-exercise. Sleep like a baby after a cold. Armstrong Athletics commented, another benefit of contrast bath finishing with cold bath, you sleep like a baby afterwards, which also helps hormone levels. Yeah, that could be definitely something that's the case with cold water therapy. So the better sleep could come from less pain from doing it. Therefore, you're resting better. So yeah, so the water temperature for the cold water immersion, so just going into cold water, was between 9.2 and 12 degrees Celsius, so pretty chilly. And that was for 14 to 18 minutes within 1 hour post-exercise. So this took the range of all the studies, individual studies, and kind of gave you that range, right? So immersion was more effective in blunting rise of that creatine kinase, so that inflammatory marker, reducing muscle soreness. So that was found in this article, was that the muscle soreness was reduced quite a bit in cold water immersion versus the contrast bath condition. So interesting. It's the ice principle, slowing down blood flow, decreasing inflammation, kind of holds true in this from what the data shows. Anything to add with that, Rob? Sorry here.
No, not too much to add.
No.
Sorry, my audio is kind of cutting in and out, but that sounded good.
Yeah, that's good. I do have like a computer issue here. Oh gosh, what's going on? My computer froze, so which is not good. So let me give me 1 second here. Looks like my computer froze. So no one leave. There we go. Actually, wait. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or yours or what's going on, but you still there, right, Rob? Yeah, your audio's not working. Everyone else can hear though, in terms of everyone on Zoom, or sorry, everyone on Instagram and Zoom.
I'm still here, yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out. Okay, good. Everyone's giving thumbs up. I'm just trying
Can
to
you
figure
hear
out.
me? Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, you're a little bit choppy, but that's fine. Okay, I'm good on Zoom. It's just my mouse has disappeared on this on this Mac. So I'm gonna go to the front desk actually because I do have the presentation there as well. So sorry guys, 1 second. I was on a roll there. I'm clearly in the office and going for a walk. This could be considered my active recovery. So, oh, Rob got kicked out. So I'm just gonna pull up my presentation on the clinic computer because mine's not being good. Give me 1 second, guys. So, there we go. And sorry for Zoom. Don't know what's going on here. So, okay. Okay, Rob's still there. I don't know why it disconnected. So we have recovery again. So yeah, we are blunting the rise in creatine kinase. Okay, Rob's still supporting us, and reducing muscle soreness. So that's that article. There was another one that looked at contrast water therapy and exercise-induced muscle damage, systematic review. So this was just looking at contrast water, so hot and cold. So it did not compare this kind of modality to cold water immersion. So it looked at contrast technique only, 1 minute cold to 1 to 3 minute hot. So that was a total of about 14 to 20 minutes. So you do 1 minute cold to 1 or 3 minute hot. So the cold was 8 to 15 degrees, hot was 35.5 to 45 degrees. And they did a follow-ups, so assessing people at 6, 24, 48, 72, and 96 hours after getting the ice contrast. So I'm going to go live with Farmstrong Athletics. Hopefully that's going to go through. So just waiting for, oh, there's Evan.
How's it going, Sonny?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. My computer's frozen, but
I saw that. Good content though. I combed my hair with the pillow today.
Oh, that's okay.
But I've got a solution. I got a solution for it.
Oh yes, there it is. I like that. Good delivery there.
There we go. Big supporter of you guys.
Great delivery. Thank you. As am I of Farmstrong Athletics. Everyone want to get strong.
Yeah, you bet.
That's where you go to get strong.
Come see us. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for joining. Anything to add
Yeah,
about
thanks for inviting me.
any of this? It's going to be
Yeah, I've when I was more of an athlete and less of a coach, I've dabbled in a lot of these recovery methods, not with the big brain background that you guys have put into, more just trial and error, finding what works for you.
yeah.
I really liked at the start getting used to contrast baths or ice baths.
Yeah.
Really not pleasant when you're jumping into a cold tub with ice, obviously. But once you get used to it, I found that you really, and I used to do them quite a bit. I really enjoyed them, and they really were beneficial.
Yeah.
I had it set up where I really liked the contrast style, where I would have my tub would be filled with ice in the one bathroom, and either I'd have another hot tub in another bathroom of my house, or I just had my ensuite had a shower. So I'd have the hot shower, and I would set a timer on interval, and I would 2 minutes on the interval in the hot shower, and then plunge in the ice bath for 2 minutes. Sometimes I'd go even like 5 minutes in the ice bath, 2 minutes in the hot bath or in the hot shower.
Yeah.
And I found, I don't know what others have found with this, is I found that getting back into the hot bath or getting into the hot shower, that actually became more painful and less enjoyable than the ice bath. And once you get used to it, I know it's a shock on your system when you're starting to try that style of therapy. But I really found I recovered well doing that contrast bath, and then finishing with the ice bath, as I mentioned in my comments. You'd finish with that ice bath, and then you'd sit in there for 5 minutes. You'd come out, and then you'd put all your sweatpants on, and you're sweaty, and your hoodie, and you just bundle up, and you could instantly fall asleep like a baby, and you would get the best night's rest after that. So
yeah, that's because of like reducing those inflammatory markers, like from the physiological side. And it's interesting that you mentioned the shower, because these studies did indicate, a lot of people ask like, well, I don't have a bath, I just have a shower. Mm-hmm. Some of these studies actually use like a shower for cold or hot water. So just like you mentioned, you got a shower and a bathtub, you should be good to go.
And even just the shower, it's easy. Just crank it cold, crank it hot.
Yeah.
Does the same thing. I do that in my one gym that I train at, not at Farm Strong, but at my Nate gym. I'll do that if I'm training. I don't train as much anymore, but the contrast therapy, even dabbling with that, you do recover better, I find, when you finish with the cold bath.
Yeah. No, yeah, it definitely that shows with the research too. So like with this one, I'll flip the screen here, and we'll get Evan to stay on if you want.
Yeah, sure. So I got nothing to do until I got a lecture to give here in about an hour and a half.
Oh gosh, yeah, we can.
I'm getting stir crazy here. I miss you, Sonny. I don't see you guys anymore.
I miss you too. It's not
this home isolation stuff. It's for the birds.
Yeah, I don't enjoy it either, but we're making the best of it. So yeah, this article, the follow up with this one was 6, 24, 48, 72, and 96 hours. So they were looking at pain scores and things like that. And the results showed significantly greater improvements in muscle soreness and reduced muscle strength loss. So they did some jump tests as well. So they showed that after having this at 6/24, like, few days post, they still had those benefits. So superior to rest and passive recovery. Passive recovery just means like, sitting on the couch and hanging out. So huge implications there, because lots of the other studies only looked at like 1 or 2 days, like 1 day of benefit, whereas this one showed a few days of benefit. So that is looking at hydrotherapy. I still wanted to mention compression. So you do have compression therapy as well. So you have like compression stockings or clothing down here. And then you also have like the Normatec, which is one company that does the mechanical compression. So you put on those bags on your legs or arms, and it provides compression that way. These studies mainly looked at compression garments, so clothing. There's not too much data on those machines just because it's relatively new. But you can consider it the same because, it's still doing the same thing. So,
and it's super expensive, so it works, right?
Yeah, they're definitely like, I think the Normatec's like 1,500 American or something like that.
Yeah.
The goal is to reduce inflammatory mediators, promote drainage of metabolites, so kind of like Rob said, the uptake of this stuff, and increase venous return. So your blood returning to your heart, therefore increasing edema or swelling. So one study used garments. So this was like within an hour of working out. They put garments on for 12 to 72 hours after exercise. So with every one of these studies is that these recovery mechanisms are done right after their exertion or their activity or their sport. So getting it on pretty quick. And so putting on like a compression shirt or pants, for instance, for 12 to 72 hours would be one way of doing it. So it reduced delayed onset muscle soreness and increased performance after use. Performance being like sprint times, jump tests, and things like that. So another one showed improved perception of muscle damage and increases performance in subsequent endurance tests. So again, showing that people just feel better. So this one didn't show exactly like, less damage, but people just felt better, so they did more. So it gave them like not a placebo effect, but it kind of gave them a bit more, I guess, oomph to do their workout. So that's with compression. Self-release, so looking at this guy with the roller or this person with that shepherd's hook. Also some interesting data. So self-release, myofascial release, enhances myofascial mobility, so the muscle mobility, and enhanced joint range of motion and recovery process by decreasing the effects of acute muscle soreness and DOM. So that's the theory behind it. And what's actually found is the results show that this type of intervention increases joint range of motion. So it does increase mobility using a foam roller, using a small ball. And some results show that there is less pain post. So they didn't study the inflammatory markers in that article. So they didn't comment on like actually reducing DOMs, but people that were injured had less pain when doing it. So oftentimes a lot of athletes ask, should I be rolling or should I be doing these kind of things, stretching in between sets or in between activity? And the study also examined that, and it showed no detriment to activity. So yeah, according to this study, roll out if you need to roll out during training.
You recommend, Sonny, rolling before training or after training? What's your suggestions for that?
I would say like have your own management program. So like I always like using me as an example. So I have like a chronically tight hip flexor and shoulder. So I will specifically stretch those two areas before, during, and after. Not everything, because like realistically you can't stretch everything out. But if you have problem areas, so areas that are tight or sore, I'd say to do it before and after. So a lot of people say like you want to be tight in certain areas, not necessarily the case. Your body will tell you, like if you're doing your activity and you see it getting worse with what you're doing in between, then stop doing that. But I mean, my recommendation would be to stretch or to do mobility stuff during your workout, before and after. So yeah.
Yeah, so be ready for it, I guess. Yeah. Sorry?
I know it's not an easy answer, but I'd say at all phases of the activity, you should be doing something. This is why I can't sit down between sets. For instance, lifting with Evan at Farmstrong, if I'm doing anything really, I can't sit down, because if I sit down, my hip flexor gets tight, and then when I do another lift, I can't squat as much. So like let's say at the end of it, if there's heavy squats, if I sit on a chair, I'll probably bail.
And we don't sit down between sets in weightlifting anyways, so it's...
Gone are the days where you're smoking between sets.
Yeah, guys, before our snatch and clean and jerk, we go have a dart in the back alley and come back and train. Yeah, I miss those days too. I never, but you hear the stories.
Yeah.
The old European training methods.
Yeah. Yeah, like with the myofascial release, I kind of went in the order of data. So the first one being active recovery, the most amount of data, the most positive data I found. And the biggest thing with that is, and I'm a person who's economical, thrifty if you want to call me thrifty, cheap if you want to call me cheap, whatever. But I like things that you can do yourself without any kind of financial burden, right? So if active recovery, for example, that's free. You just do a little bit of cool down at the end of a workout.
Right.
If you look at, Evan mentioned the ice and hot water, that was done at home. So that's relatively
cheap, free.
You just got to buy some ice Compression garments, that gets a little bit more expensive. And then obviously those compression technology systems, those are great, but then you're looking at like, I don't know, like the cheapest one I saw was $500, and Normatec, like the one that I have the most experience with, was 1,500 American, I think. So yeah, the very expensive. So if you're an elite level athlete that gets some sponsorship, then sure, you can get the expensive stuff. But for a lot of athletes, like a lot of Canadian athletes, you're not getting paid very much, if anything. So I think the big take-home messages are you can do active recovery. That's free. You can do the cold hot water therapy as well at home. It can still be effective. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more messy and inconvenient, but yeah.
I found, I mean, even some of the compression garments have gotten a lot cheaper. I've dabbled with like sleeping in your compression pants and stuff like that before.
Yeah.
What do the studies show between like lower body garments compared to upper body garments? Is there a difference? Like I've read that, you know, it's more beneficial on your lower body, and
yeah,
I don't know if I felt, you know, I guess it is nice to have something kind of tight and compressing.
Yeah.
Wearing it after a workout kind of keeps you warm, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I never did any testing afterwards when I was utilizing compression garments, but
they kind of
I tried it when I was training and competing in sports, but
they pooled it all together. So they just looked at compression garments in total. They had more lower extremity ones because those were better to compress your upper extremity, like you got your chest and lungs and things like that. So yeah. So
they usually shied away from the upper body stuff in the testing, right? So
so there wasn't as much because it took like over 20 studies. So I know for a fact, like the Normatec system, great system, by the way. Using that was awesome. It did help with DOMs for me specifically. And the only thing with that one is the upper extremity, like the arm wraps, I found get a good seal. Like they didn't compress as much as the legs, because the legs went right into your hip, whereas the arm, like you don't have, like you can't put it on a jacket because you could die.
Right. It would kill you.
You could just die. That would be
this is a great recovery. It lowers your heart rate to 0.
Results may vary. But yeah, so you can't compress the chest that much because obviously there's a lot of important stuff there. So compression, like that's why I put it lower on the list, because it showed some benefit, significant still. So if you do have the money, sure, try it out. I'm one person that just says try it all out. Try the cheap stuff out first. If that's effective, continue with that. If it's not, then try some other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the take-home message, I think, with all these recovery things. The take-home message is recovery is important. It's a real thing.
Right.
It just depends how you want to conduct it, because like the cool-down programs for everything we do that's just active recovery. So
yeah, I think active recovery is something important to stress on. I think especially with newer athletes that we work with, you know, their first exposure is that's when they're going to get the sorest. Or in my case, when I take years or months off, I come back, I'm super sore. Yeah. So you go, oh, I'm sore, I can't work out today. And then, you know, you just get back in that cycle of like not moving, right? Not training. And then you're always going to be sore. So
exactly,
that active recovery, I think, is so important. When I used to do more programming for people, I would even program in like, say 30 minutes of just light bicycle ride, or I don't like the jogging too much because it can kind of beat you up, but you know, with aerodynes and rowers and all these good, you know, equipment nowadays, you can have some good blood flush, as Rob mentioned, kind of, you know, flush your system out, get the blood moving, recover a lot easier. But even, you know, in our case with Olympic weightlifting being our primary training at Farmstrong, even, you know, you don't necessarily need to take days off or huge time off. You just lift lighter, even if you're just moving around with the barbell and, you know, kind of greasing those patterns, you know, keep moving, and you don't get as sore. And once you start training continuously, I find that, I mean, myself, I don't really get sore when I'm training lots. It's just those first kind of instances coming back in to training, and you're just like, whoa, I've been taking way too much time off and being too lazy. So
yeah, exactly. That's why I can't take more than 2 days off. Sometimes it happens, but like for me, if I go more than 2 days, then again, it just sucks getting back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm doing it from like more health, more from like a health and mobility approach.
Mm-hmm.
Like for the lifting, like I know I won't be putting up like huge numbers.
It's safe to say that guys like us that start in our, well, I'm older than you, but when I started in my mid 30s, I knew I wasn't going to the Olympics.
And that's, you know, that's just like, that in itself is a bit of science, right? Like the strongest you can ever be, so to speak, is like 25.
Right.
So
yeah,
for me, it's like, well, I look at the research and data with that activity, and it's like, it's all good for osteoarthritis. Like it's really good for mobility, shoulder rehab, and like everything. So if you continue it safely, you should theoretically be very healthy for a long time.
oh, for sure.
You could,
And I mean, even seeing your improvement with your shoulder mobility has just been phenomenal.
yeah, my shoulder. Yeah, thank you. That's why when you mentioned, like, I wish we had a video of day 1 to now, I wish I could see that, because like that shoulder was messed up, and that was hockey that ruined it initially. And this wasn't like competitive. This was men's beginner league, Div 13. Just
it goes that low.
I just I mentioned this story before. Like my dream as a kid was always like, hey, I want to play hockey. Never had the money growing up, so I'm like, you know what? I'm working now. I can play hockey. Let's just do it. And it was worth it because I got to like try it. Maybe not truly worth it because I wrecked my shoulder for good.
Yeah.
But I like to say that the gentleman at Farmstrong helped me rehab that shoulder and led to this place, right? So I got to rent a room with them, and it developed my philosophy as a physio. So thanks to that beautiful man wearing that beautiful hat. I have some Farmstrong gear too. Half the time I'm wearing the shirts here anyway.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, Sonny. That looks good. I think the other thing that you didn't cover with these recovery methods. I mean, active recovery, yeah, super affordable, cheap. Going for a light jog or a light walk helps with that. The compression clothing, again, gets a little bit more expensive. Bang for your buck wise, the contrast therapy. You don't even need to buy ice. You can just turn the water on cold and hot in the shower, like we mentioned. And you can make your own ice. Most people have fridges. Yeah. And it doesn't, like I think your slide showed, you don't have to have a huge difference in temperatures.
No, yeah. It needs to be cold and it needs to be warm.
But that one really worked. And what was the last one? Rolling. I kind of feel too with the myofascial release, like stretching and say foam rolling or sentinel lacrosse ball.
Yeah.
You can do it wrong, and like you kind of have to have a little bit of exposure and be taught how to do it. I mean, sure, it could be as simple as just putting the lacrosse ball on the sore spot and sitting on it until it loosens up. But I see people foam roll sometimes, and just going up and down, up and down, up and down. You're not really tackling it like if you're just kind of sitting on that spot and
you want to sit on the spot. Like the ideal way is to sit on it until the pain goes away. If the pain gets worse, then you're doing it wrong or putting too much pressure. So that's a good take home. And I wanted for everyone just to like ask questions and just post them, and then I'll keep Evan on because company is nice during this social distancing time. So type in your questions.
So lonely.
Sorry, I need to cry into my bucket. It's almost
just.
So ask questions, and then even 5-minute physio. If Shane's still on, let's go live with you guys. Let's discuss some stuff. If there's physios that want to go live, let me know. If there's just people that have tried these things, athletes, let me know. Coaches, whatever it might be. So
open it up.
Ask questions. We want them. So that's why I left a bit more time. That's why I kind of blew through that presentation a bit quicker.
Well, and then the other thing that you didn't cover too, it's like the cheapest and people always overlook it, is sleep. Like sleep is, I don't know if you've covered it yet in all of your lectures. I've been working on doing some of them, but like sleep is it's like the biggest, it's like the cheapest supplement you could, you don't need to buy a bunch of supplements for recovery. Like all you need is 90-minute REM cycles to have like that hormonal response, increased growth hormone, increased testosterone during those sleep patterns. And
there's definitely improvement shown with that, like the sleep and like the psychological aspect, the nutrition. I could pull some data and stuff, but I know I don't have good answers to some questions because it's slightly out of my scope. But yeah, that's those are good points. You do need sleep. That's shown quite a bit. Even now, you have people having nightmares from this whole pandemic. So people are talking about their stories of sleep, and yeah, it's so important to be like the whole stress response. Like if you're stressed out, you don't sleep very well. If your body's stressed, like physically or emotionally, then same thing. Like some people are so much like everyone's had the time where they're so exhausted they can't fall asleep, right? So
Yeah.
things to look into, whether it's like,
Well, and and depending on what time of the day you're training in too, like when I was competing in weightlifting,
yeah,
I was training, like I had to put my son to bed. That was like at 7:30. Then you're training till sometimes 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening, and then you're eating, and and that's another thing that we haven't covered was nutrition for recovery.
exactly. Yeah, we gotta.
But I did find though when you turn our head sideways to read the comments, sleep and hydration. Yeah. So, but yeah, I found when like you mix that contrast therapy up before bed and you do sleep a lot better. And sometimes you're so achy, it is hard to sleep when you've trained really hard and you're really achy from your workouts.
There's this with Shane. This is a colleague in Toronto, actually, regarding tissue release, an oddly effective method when the pressure is intense is to tell yourself you're okay and that the pressure is not dangerous to you, along with diaphragmatic breathing. Yeah, so like if you're putting the pressure in an area, yes, you're recreating some pain with like doing trigger point release with a ball or a roller. The biggest thing is that the pain should be getting better with time. So yes, it sucks initially, like it might be 5, 6 out of 10, for example, but the big thing is to reduce that pain. So if it doesn't reduce after like a minute and it gets worse, then it's too long. But initially for the first 10 seconds, expect some, some significant, I don't want to say significant pain, but you're going to feel some pain. Sleep hydration is important as well. Thank you, Shane. If you want to go live, just hit the go live button and you can always come say hi.
Well, it's so easy to,
how do you guys
sit on the lacrosse ball and your first gut instinct is to just brace and hold your breath and
exactly, yeah.
Kind of counterproductive.
We got a question on like using a Theragun or percussion massage. Actually, Hypervolt, it's actually interesting. I do have a Hypervolt here at the clinic through Hyperice. I think it's effective. Like, again, it's one of those things that I don't think you have to have. It is $500, for example. So
they are awesome, though.
Not many people are going to spend $500 on it. But if you're serious about your activity, then yeah, I would say it's effective. Like I just put it in the same kind of categories, foam rollers and balls and things like that. Again, research on those guns specifically, limited because they haven't been around for long. So I use it, like it saves my hands. So let's say if like we often like going to community events. So we'll go to like lifting competitions, we'll go to like volleyball, basketball, running, whatever it is. And if someone just has like some tight some myofascial tone, like a muscle is tight, I'll just say, here, take the gun and use that. So as a myofascial technique, I think it's effective based on what I've seen with it with athletes, what I've seen with it with me. Like back in the times where we were allowed to go out and do things we wanted to do, I would use that gun in my hip and then go lift at Farm Strong with Evan. And I found that it was effective. Could I do it with stretching and using a ball? Sure. It maybe took more time, but the gun made it very effective, and I got to just sit there and enjoy.
Well, your warm-ups are so fast with that thing.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, they reduce the time, I think, to get where you want to go. We do have a Hyperice foam roller as well. So we do.
You can make them out of a jigsaw gun, jigsaw as well.
You can save some money. That foam roller is like $200 or $250. So I use that roller with people here. But I also show it to them in the clinic, not to get them to buy it, but just to be like, hey, if I take care of myself and do something, it feels better. So the gun is more like a vessel of you taking control of your rehab. So as a physio perspective, like I'm not wanting to make hundreds of thousands of dollars off these guns. It's just to get people to know they can actually cause some benefits. So hopefully that helps stretch_Dave. Yeah. And then there's different like frequencies of guns. There's some that are a bit louder and cheaper. So like, I don't think any one particular you should not buy. I mean, I like Hyperice, like the Hypervolt specifically, because I have it. So I can comment on that one specifically because I use it all the time. It's almost been a year. We use it all like every day. It hasn't broken down. The battery's still good. Yeah, I would say if you have the spare bucks, there's no harm in buying it. I use my gun. It's very helpful for me. So that's Sandy, who also is a member a member at Farmstrong. A very spectacular lifter, like
Yeah.
very impressive, and does all the art here. So all the artwork that's in the clinic is done by Sandy. So yeah, so she has a gun, very helpful. So a lot of this is like, it's very early in the research phase. So to try these things out, it's not harmful, right? So I just want people to feel like they don't need to go buy stuff. I'd say like have a decent roller and a small ball, just to deal with like certain injuries at home. So yeah, like the rolling and the ball for recovery shows more data for injury. So it helps with injury. So yeah.
I have to give a shout out to Sandy. When are you lifting in your garage again, Sandy? I'm bored. I need some coaching. So let's do a FaceTime session soon.
As we wait for her to respond to any other questions or comments, or want to go live, share your stories, whatever it is. If you're lonely, you can always hit live. He's lifting today.
Oh, there we go. I'm scrolled up. Okay. Well, hopefully it's not during my lecture that I got to give here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Well, Sandy, you can do it anytime.
Yeah. Well, I'll just have two screens going. Multitask.
Clanging of weights during the lecture. That'd be funny.
So there was a comment about hydration, Sonny.
Yeah, hydration and sleep, I think it was, from Shane.
Yeah.
Plus hydration. Yeah. So,
what's your recommendations on, I mean, again, everyone's a unique snowflake, but is there a standard rule of thumb for how much, water you should be drinking a day? Or
I'm kind of one of those people that believe in like drink how much you feel like you need. Like for example, 8 to 12 or 8 to 10 glasses, I do like probably maybe, well, not double that, but I drink way more water than that because I like drinking water. I think like to fully void your bladder every 2 hours, that's a healthy thing. So
it is healthy every 2 hours? Okay.
2 to 3 hours, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Right.
I've read that a few times to be able to do that. Is good. So if you're not doing that often, maybe drink some more water and see. I don't necessarily not a big fan of the 8 to 10 glasses model. Just
right.
Like you're counting and it's just
right.
Then you're like, okay, I'm gonna pound like 6 right away to get to that. Just like the walking thing. Like the watchers are great that tell you to take steps, but then you might just be doing 8,000 all at once. It holds you accountable, but like to do it all at once might not be a good idea. Like drinking a whole bunch of water. So like me. Like I crank out 2 glasses as soon as I wake up. That's from like my grandma beating it into.
Right.
She's the one who when we woke up would say drink 2 glasses of water before you do anything. So this
right.
before eating breakfast or anything. So I think it's important to stay hydrated.
Am I getting enough hydration with my liter of coffee, 2 liters of beer and wine a night?
Probably not. You're getting dehydrated.
There is water in all of those things though. So
it's a diuretic, so you're like that's coming out of you faster. I would use a 2 to 1 ratio, right? Like
2 to 1.
1 beer, 2 glasses of water. That's probably why I drink so much water. Water is I drink like a decent amount of coffee. If you consider coffee like 1 cup, 250 mils, which to me is like nothing. I probably have like four cups a day, I would say, which is still not that bad. I've heard like 12, 13 from people.
Well, I'm at like 2 French presses a day. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'll go grab one. I think they're like standard size cups would be like 8 cups a day is what I'm drinking.
Yeah. And Alberta Strength and Fitness just joined. So you guys, I know this is like the tail end of things. I will put this on our story. So this all is recorded. You can also shoot me a text or a message for the link. So we have all these videos saved. Every day we do this, they're saved on a Google Drive. I have the link to it so I can give it to you. If we were like Instagram, like if you had 10,000 followers, you could just like put links to your stories. That would be so nice. But yeah, we can't.
You need some Insta cred.
Yeah, you need to be verified. So any other questions, guys, or comments? Just list it out. We got, I think, a couple more minutes. It might cut out soon. It usually gives me a countdown, but I think that was a good discussion. I think that would help a lot of people. So a lot of people know recovery is important, but they don't know why. So you got those inflammatory markers, you got lactic acid buildup, you got swelling, you got like blood flow changes. Recovery is to make that more efficient, right? So like your blood lactate threshold, so how much lactic acid you can have in your body before like burning out or just falling down on the ground. They say is sometimes a better indicator than VO2 max test. So doing this recovery shows that you improve, like you increase that threshold. So hence you could assume the performance is going to be better. Activity is going to be better. So yeah. Sorry again for Zoom. My computer kept freezing, but luckily Instagram stayed strong. So yeah, and that's the thing. Like, yes, all these studies like looked at elite level athletes, like higher level athletes, but you can apply this to anybody that's working out like 5-6 times a week. I'd still say you're in the same boat. You still need the same maintenance, but people don't often research those individuals because they're not making money off their sport, or they're not like, you know, usually everyone wants to be an elite level athlete, but I'd say somebody working out in their gym 6 days a week is still working like an elite level athlete. They need management too, and they don't need.
Well, if you're exercising and training, you need to recover. I mean,
exactly.
It's the same for anybody.
Anybody, yeah. So if you're going CrossFit, if you're going to trainers, you need recovery. Everyone needs it, and it's cheap enough that you can do it. So hit the bike, go for a jog after a heavy volume or heavy set. Get into a hot and cold water bath. Try those things out. And then, yeah, we'll give it a couple more minutes if there's any other questions, but I don't think there is going to be because I might not have enough time to answer it.
Are you limited to time length on these?
It's an hour. Usually gives a countdown, but sometimes it just like doesn't give me a countdown, just cuts out. So it's an hour, which I think is going to be in a couple of minutes. I think I had like 12:58. I activated it. So
we've had marathon Facebook Live lifting sessions for competitions, and
yeah,
I don't think we get cut off necessarily on them.
No, they might be like Facebook, Instagram, similar, but they're a bit different.
Yeah,
I choose Instagram just because we have more followers on it.
Right.
And like for some things you can link Facebook, Instagram together, but live you can't.
Yeah.
So Facebook.
Well, thanks for the invite, Sonny. Yeah. It was fun, and let's do one of these again soon.
Yeah. Let me know if there's any topics you want.
Sure.
I can.
Yeah, we need something. We need something to fill the day. I'm almost done my other job, so I'll.
Oh yeah. Any injuries? Maybe shoulder. Maybe we'll talk about shoulder.
Yeah. Shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thanks. And if anyone's interested in getting some remote coaching, that's about all we're offering right now at Armstrong. But good opportunity. We've got lots of high-level coaches, and we're doing remote programming and live stream coaching and video review. Getting back into that more. Always prefer working with athletes live and at our club, but with the technology, we're actually finding it pretty convenient to coach some of our athletes remotely in their garages. And we're seeing a lot of athletes stock up their home gyms. Boy, it's hard to get equipment. We lent all of our equipment out. I don't even have any in my own home gym. So
that's hard to get. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, but it's also showing that people definitely still need some coaching. So yeah, hit us up if you're interested at Farmstrong. So
yeah, for sure. Hit them up.
Farmstrong's
a good place to lift.
I'll check in with you later, Sonny. Thanks for the invite. It was fun chatting about some of this stuff.
For sure. Thank you. Thanks for
All right. See ya. Bye.
Peace out. I can, there we go. So that is it for today, guys. So yeah, thanks for attending. I think that was a good discussion, and give us more topics. We need more. I can not make up topics, but I can create topics about anything. So rather than doing that, I'd rather have people, mention that they have had this injury or there's this topic. So as long as it fits in the realm of physical performance, let us know. And thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Continue spreading the word, and we'll continue doing this. So thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Love you guys.